When libido drops for weeks or months at a time, the biological system has entered an emergency safe mode, locking peripheral gears to protect the organism's core functions. While cultural myths suggest romance is a spontaneous emotional reflex, clinical reality reveals a resource-heavy, mechanical mechanism. Modern intimacy is often caught in a physiological conflict, as the body is forced to prioritize immediate survival over reproductive function. Emails, missed deadlines, and constant digital inputs are processed by the brain as physical threats, creating an environment of continuous survival pressure. This conflict is mediated by the autonomic nervous system. On this schematic, we see the master dial slammed into the red zone, the sympathetic response. This sympathetic state is the mandatory default for navigating stress and daily obligations, keeping the body in high alert readiness. Physical pleasure requires the opposite state, the blue parasympathetic zone. As the system attempts to toggle into this rest and digest mode, incoming stress signals snap the dial back to the survival red. Sexual dryness functions as a vital mechanical signal that the system's environment requires adjustment. Arousal is an energy-intensive state that demands a significant caloric and physiological budget. The plateau phase, which sustains arousal before reaching a peak, represents a high-demand biological process. Every organism operates on a fixed daily energy pool. This dashboard shows how that battery is divided among core organs, brain function, and the reproductive system. Chronic success chasing rapidly depletes this finite pool, drawing resources for daily demands. Working multiple jobs and managing a household without support create a massive energy drain. To compensate, the body shrinks the energy bar allocated to the reproductive system. When energy hits a critical low, the reproductive allocation is completely cut. This creates the fatigue cycle, a state defined by a chronic, systemic energy deficit. While a partner may seek intimacy, the brain's evolutionary priority is simply maintaining the vital organs until the next sleep cycle. To keep the organism alive during this depletion, the brain actively suppresses non-essential systems. Reproductive and pleasure centers offer no immediate survival benefit, making them the first physiological systems defunded. This process occurs without conscious choice. Feeling physically empty is a literal biological reality. Attempting intimacy without available energy is a mechanical impossibility, an energy conservation process operating regardless of emotional desire. Beyond total energy volume, we must look at the neurological pathways of the brain, specifically the region responsible for monitoring environmental safety. The amygdala serves as the threat detection center, continuously monitoring the environment while maintaining a neural pathway toward the parasympathetic system. Modern threats like career crises keep this region in permanent activation, characterized by a pulsing red glow. For arousal to occur, the nervous system must enter a parasympathetic, rest and digest state. However, the amygdala's survival alarm blocks the necessary parasympathetic signal, preventing it from traveling down the nervous system. Achieving arousal becomes physiologically impossible as long as this threat detection center is triggered. When this primary neurological pathway is blocked, the brain seeks a behavioral workaround. This redirection of energy is known as sublimation. Even when the pathway for intimacy is closed, the brain still craves a dopamine reward to regulate its state. Individuals subconsciously redirect this blocked energy into intense career goals, extreme physical fitness, or art. These pursuits provide reliable, predictable dopamine hits that the brain can access without navigating the complexities of a strained relationship. A sudden obsession with work or a new hobby is often the visible sign of blocked sexual energy being redirected by the brain. Physical arousal is a vascular event, a process of blood flow management within localized bodily systems. This vascular network must allow for rapid blood flow to the pelvic region to create the swelling, lubrication, and sensitivity required for the sexual response. Modern lifestyle variables can actively degrade the health of these specific pathways. Chronic sleep deficits and poor nutrition impair cardiovascular efficiency, causing arterial pathways to narrow. A sedentary lifestyle causes blood to stagnate, reducing robust flow to a weak trickle. This physical restriction is worsened by metabolic stress, as excess abdominal fat acts as a bioactive endocrine tissue. This metabolic environment facilitates hormonal involution, a process where fat cells convert free testosterone into estrogen, depleting the chemical drivers of desire. This creates a state where the brain's desire for intimacy is completely disconnected from the body's physical capacity. When vascular health is compromised, the mechanical function of arousal cannot execute, making psychological interest secondary to physical limitations. Emotional therapy cannot resolve sexual dryness if the underlying vascular pathways are physically unable to facilitate flow. The complete physiological equation of arousal requires the synchronization of the energy battery, the amygdala, and the vascular network. This is a dependency chain. Vascular flow depends on capacity. Capacity depends on neurological safety, and safety on cellular energy. Optimizing one creates a positive cascade. Lowering amygdala activation allows the energy battery to recharge and the vascular network to expand, restoring flow. This model remains consistent even during age-related hormonal shifts or severe health crises like oncology or systemic disease. In crisis scenarios, the parameters of intimacy simply shift. It must pivot to a healing tool using adapted physical protocols to maintain the bond. Lasting resolution is found by proactively identifying and mitigating the biological and environmental stressors currently overwhelming the organism.
The electronic version of all chapters from the full book, She Who Awakens by Alina Chamberlain, can be found at wishforlove.org.